Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. It's me. If y'all saw the way that we get ready right before these shows, we are last minute. Like literally, I was just now putting on lipstick, but it's fine. It's fine. We're here. We're here to entertain. We obviously switch sides because it actually makes more sense because you're J and I'm A.
So as you know, Abby runs this show.
I do.
And I sound weird. Am I echoing?
Just Mom, could I?
Okay. Abby runs this show, and I kind of was like, I want to switch spots because J and A,
Yeah.
And I thought that you were gonna actually be like, seriously, Jennifer, and roll your eyes and have like I'm not doing that. And she was like, oh, that makes sense. And then she also said, she comes into the room first, then I won't trip and fall.
Yeah.
Anymore.
And so we did some last minute rearranging, but I'm so happy to be here this morning.
It's weird.
I'm so happy to be here this morning. Are you happy to be here this morning, Jennifer?
Well, we're home. I'm always happy to be home.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I'm happy. We got a good subject.
We do. So
we do pregame the show. We don't get ready.
Oh no.
Like we discuss it.
Yeah, because if I got ready, my hair would look better, but it's fine.
Same. We do. Yeah. So we do pregame the show and talk about, kind of just go over what we're going to talk about and touch on some subjects. And really, when we were kind of prepping for this could seriously be like a 5-part thing if we go into like each element of.
Yeah.
Not that we're going to do that.
Well, it sounds like you did some research that I didn't do, so that's good.
I had to see if I checked any of the boxes.
Yeah.
Am I emotionally intelligent? I don't know.
Yes. So this is Journeys and Ambitions with Jennifer. Say hi.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. It's weird being on this side.
And with Abby, that's me. Hey, girl. And we're going to be talking today. So the episode is titled "Okay, Drama Queen." Oh, also we are on LV with Val Radio. Be sure to download the LV with Val app. That's LV with Val.
I love when you do that.
Yeah, I can't do all that sign language that quickly.
If you're on the app, and if you can't watch our lovely faces, you can listen to it as well as music 24/7.
And be sure to like and subscribe to our channel because we post shorts pretty much every single day. On TikTok, all of our platforms are Journeys Ambitions. Follow us on X/Twitter at J_A_radio. We are on all the platforms, all the things. You can tune in live on the LV Without app on YouTube and on Facebook. Any more announcements you want to make?
And if you want to catch up, all the past episodes.
Yes.
Oh, we're in double digits. This is our 10th episode.
This is our 10th episode. Congratulations. Go us.
I almost wore a crown because it's also Drama Queen.
Yeah.
Like a tiara.
You can't wear the crown in the headset.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my crown.
So, yes, today we're going to be talking about the episode of today is Okay, Drama Queen. And we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence, which is kind of a, Aaliyah said details on the top. Abby, this is from Target. Isn't she so cute?
Where did you see that?
Right there.
Oh.
Anyways, this is from Target. Super cute. I had one from Shein, but the Target one's better. So you're welcome. Yes, so we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence, and which, like I said, is a hot topic that people kind of bring up. There's those buzzwords that you hear on social media, like narcissist, triggered is one that I use frequently. Emotional intelligence is another one. There's a bunch of those like buzzwords that people are all kind of talking about these days. And so I definitely wanted to dive in on that subject. Yeah. So you said you did some research. Are you pulling that up right now?
Yeah, I was kind of looking for my notes. But
okay. So my mom did some research on what emotional intelligence actually means. But I'm just going to go based off of my own definition like I always do because I know everything. So as far as I'm concerned, emotional intelligence is kind of like, it doesn't really have much to do with actual intelligence, although you said it does, but we're going to get to what the internet says versus what Abby says. It doesn't really have much to do with actual intelligence, but more how you can manage your emotions and reactions to things. And we actually we just put out an episode of Tasteful and Toxic where we talk about reactive versus rational. Which kind of plays. I had to play the toxic role, you guys. I'm not really that toxic, but sometimes, it's called Tasteful and Toxic. Everyone's being a little too tasteful for my taste.
It's also entertainment, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be an element of entertainment in that.
So I had to bring the toxicity there. But we talked about being rational versus being reactive. And that's something that I've had to really, really learn to not always react to things, but to kind of digest them and think before you react. Because usually when you react to things, you're coming from a place of like what you're being triggered, like someone poked the bear. Now you're unleashing all of your emotions that maybe you've kept cooped up onto this one person because you feel like they deserve it. And so emotional intelligence to me is being able to,
not that that's not going to happen from time to time,
level out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course, nobody's perfect.
We're not, what do you got? Statues, right?
Yeah, we're human beings.
But just more like, thinking about what your reaction and what are you reacting to? Are you actually reacting to that person, or the way they made you feel? Like,
right.
So
well, and a lot of times, and I find that I've done this before. Someone may say something to me, and I'm not actually mad at what they did, but I'm mad about the feeling that it brought up in me, which is kind of what you just said, but like something from the past. Like I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling at someone else who made me feel the same way you're making me feel. And now I'm unleashing it on you because you're right here, right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I was looking at this, there's a lot of like corporate training on this, right? So how you deal with coworkers, how you deal with customers, how you deal with vendor, that kind of thing, right? You have to, and I think that if I'm going to say I have emotional intelligence, I would say that a good portion of it is because of the positions, the career choices that I've made, right? I've had to have a level of,
detaching yourself from a situation.
Yeah. People get mad at me. They're not mad at me.
Yeah.
Right. Or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, but there's anywhere from, if you look it up, there's 4 to 6 things that they say make it up. I'm going to go with 4.
Okay.
Because it's an hour show. So the first one is self-awareness.
Okay.
I'll go through the first ones and then we can go one by one. First one is self-awareness. Second one is self-regulation. Third one is empathy. And fourth one is social skills.
Okay.
Again, there's like 2 other ones. We're not going to go into that. So we're going to do, let's talk about self-awareness, right? Recognize your own emotions, understand how they influence your actions.
Say that one more time.
Recognize your own emotions and understand how they influence your actions.
I think that's the hardest part is a lot of times, especially for me personally, and I'm only speaking from my own experience, sometimes it's hard to identify what it is that I'm feeling. And so I know I feel off. I know that I may not feel good about a situation, but I don't know what I'm feeling or why I'm feeling it. And I think that's where I struggle sometimes with. I do consider myself an emotionally intelligent person. I think I've done the work. I've gone to therapy. I've tried to be mindful. But like we said, we're not perfect people, right? And I know where I fall short. And I think where that first step, I think it's important, to be self-aware and to be, what is it that I'm actually feeling right now?
Well, I think too, this is going to come with you. Have you been alive enough and had enough experiences to prompt the journey to become self-aware, right?
Yeah. So
you're young, but let's just say in the workplace, right? If you're somebody who, loses a lot of jobs, right? And, you can say oh my God, they hated me, or, oh, they didn't do this, or, oh, they didn't that. But if you're the person who keeps losing jobs, you have to become self-aware, right? You have to say, maybe this is the wrong career choice.
Yeah.
Oh, and whatever that means, but you can't always say, well, oh, that company was terrible, or that boss was terrible, or sure, you're going to have terrible bosses.
Yeah.
Sure. You're not going to like a company, but you have at some point, or relationships, right?
Yeah. I was literally going to bring up relationships.
Well, this is what prompted me to kind of take a step back and kind of go into it. Because I can sit there and say that, why have I had a series of relationships that this guy did this and this guy did this and this, this.
Yeah.
But at some point I am the common denominator.
Right. And you do realize even if you weren't necessarily the aggressor, everyone plays a role. You have
to take accountability.
Hardly ever is anything one person's fault.
Correct.
And I'm very guilty of kind of not bashing my exes, but kind of saying oh, well, they did this and this is why.
And that's a catalyst, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're self-aware and you look into you and you're attracting the same type of person, you're going through the same things, why am I attracting that?
Mm-hmm.
What am I enabling or accepting? Provoking, enabling, accepting. What am I ignoring?
Right.
Because there's probably signs. They might be subtle.
Yeah.
But when you start to become aware of yourself, and honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Because sometimes we enable or overlook because that's not what we want to see.
Right.
You're like, oh,
you're like in denial almost. You're like, well, no, it's not that bad. Yeah.
And again, let's just not harp on relationships, but in the job place, right?
Yeah.
Like you could, if you can look around and see that people don't get promoted or people are just workhorses and they don't get raises and this and that, don't delude yourself that you're going to be the diamond in the rough.
People need to be realistic.
Like,
I think this part of self-awareness is being realistic and being like, and not having these unreasonable expectations of a relationship, of a job, of a friendship, of a situation, any situation really. And kind of to talk about relationships and self-awareness, like I said, like I was kind of the type of person, and I still do this because there a lot of times, even though it's not always completely one person's fault, sometimes you are the victim of a situation, right?
Oh, sure. But that doesn't. But again,
no, I was gonna say, like in my last relationships, I had like 2 kind of previous, like more serious relationships that I was in, and in both of them, I do believe I was wronged a lot of the time. But that doesn't mean I didn't play a role. I had a boyfriend for like 4 years, and he did a lot of cheating that I continued to put up with. But I didn't help because I would say, okay, I want to work things out, but then I was like putting him down, you know what I mean? And I felt justified in the way I was treating him because he was cheating on me. And 2 wrongs don't make a right. And so because of that, he continued to cheat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because he wasn't getting validated from you.
He wasn't.
So he had to go seek out validation.
Now, he should have never cheated in the first place.
Facts.
And if you're unhappy in a relationship, cheating is no excuse.
Right.
So that's why I do feel in that instance, like, yes, he was probably more in the wrong in that way, but I did play a role because I wasn't making it any better or any easier.
But in the same token, his accountability is, aside from the cheat, let's push the cheating aside. Why didn't he just break up with you if you weren't validating him? If he needed to seek out validation from other women, then you weren't doing it for him.
Yeah. That should have been a conversation.
Yeah, go.
And we were young. We were 19
but I mean,
and 20.
This still happens.
Yeah.
In adult.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
If you need multiple sources to make you feel good about yourself, then don't be in a relationship.
Yeah.
Don't whatever.
Yeah. Don't let people walk all over you either, because enabling, even if the person is the aggressor and maybe they're doing a lot of wrong things and you're really not doing anything wrong or aggressive, by allowing somebody to treat you that way and by not standing up for yourself, you are also part of the problem.
Well, and that's the thing, right? So and that's when you're not honest with yourself and you think, well, if we just did this and we just did that, we could fix this. And I'm not saying you can't. Sometimes you can, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely had a relationship. So somebody had told me some time ago, like, same thing you said, like, it's never one person's fault, right?
Yeah.
And I struggled with that because I'm like, no, it's definitely their fault. I didn't do anything wrong.
There's a sense of pride too, right? And I think a lot of people, I don't think anybody knows that they're doing something wrong. I think most people, and this kind of goes back to the overarching argument of like, are people born bad? Or are people inherently good or inherently bad? I choose to believe that people are inherently good. I think people have good intentions, but that doesn't mean everyone has a different perspective of what good is. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I don't believe that these people are always coming from a place of, I'm trying to hurt you. I do think there are people that do that.
Right.
I think people want to hurt you and they want to put you down to bring themselves up. Right. And it's coming from a place of insecurity, however you want to spin it. But I do think it's important to kind of realize that some people might not realize that they're hurting you. And if you don't stand up for yourself and speak up, that person is never going to correct the behavior.
If they even do.
If they do.
Because they then have to be honest with themselves.
Right. But they definitely won't if they're not even made aware of the situation. Yeah.
I mean, I had a friend say to me this week, because we were talking about relationships and breakups, and I was, having a little tangent about honesty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you know me well, I'm very honest, sometimes too honest, but
honest to a fault,
but I'm kind of a, rip the Band-Aid kind of person. Like if you're going to tell me some bad news, just tell me some bad news. Like, don't linger. Don't beat around the bush. If you don't like me, you're like, you know what? I don't like you. I don't like your attitude. I don't want to be friends with you anymore. That really sucks.
Yeah.
But I'd rather that than the ghosting or the breadcrumbing, all the terms.
Yeah.
All the things like you're just going to give me a little bit until it fades away. I mean, don't do that. Right.
Yeah.
So I was telling my friend, and I just, I like what she said, but I kind of want to address it. Because I said, no, he should have just told me blah, blah, blah. Instead, he lied to me and blah, blah, and this. And she goes, you're like the 1% of people who would actually tell somebody that. Like, that's not what they're going to do. They're not going to tell you the truth. They're not going to tell you, hey, I met somebody else. Hey, I've been talking to, because they don't want to, well, one take would be they don't want to hurt your feelings. I don't think that's true. I think they don't want to admit that they're, did something wrong. They don't want to look bad or have that brought upon them.
Because nobody wants to feel like the bad guy.
But when you're not honest, you put the other person in the head wondering what they did wrong.
Yeah.
Or how they could have changed it or how they could have fixed it. When the reality of it is you didn't do anything wrong. That person just found somebody else more interesting or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that was the particular thing we were talking about. But it really is, if you get another job, right?
Yeah.
That you could really like your job right now, but something else interests you, or it pays more, or it's closer to home, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm leaving for this because I like this over here better.
Yeah. So self-awareness comes with making other people aware.
I don't want to make it about people because that's a little more emotional. But let's compare it, right? Like, I know it makes you more emotional, but frankly, I'd rather get the emotion out in one day.
Yeah.
Than be in my head for 10 years. I'm just kidding. Not 10 years. Like,
I want to read some comments really quick before we move on to the next part of it. Joe said, emotionally intelligent and all-knowing, we stand. Talking about me, because I said I know everything. Because I do. Aaliyah said, thinking before you speak and thinking before you react is what comes to mind when I hear emotional intelligence. And then Shay agreed with her and said, bingo. We have some new first-time viewers here. Hi, Frank. Welcome. Hi, TJ. Welcome to our show. I've never seen Chris Michelle.
That's Michelle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Happy Friday. And then, Shay was, when I was talking about the cheating ex, she said, you believed in his potential. We all do.
Yeah.
And then she said, hurt people. Facts, mic drop. Brittany said, I believe most people can respect if someone communicates with you on how they're feeling, even if it's something you don't want to hear. Exactly.
But you allow choices, right? You allow choices when you do that. And that's the choice to, is this something that I want to work on and it's worth it?
Yeah.
Right. Or is it not? And in the same token, if you find yourself in enough of those situations, you make the decision, do I need to work on myself? Is there something that I'm projecting? Is there something that needs to be fixed inside of me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not, okay, well, I'll just go out, yeah. Let's look at the patterns.
Yeah. So now let's talk about,
if anybody thinks I'm talking to them, I'm totally talking about myself.
If you think I'm talking about you, I am.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. If the shoe fits, wear it, girl. It's about you.
So actually going with Shay and what's that, Aaliyah? The next one is self-regulation.
Yes. And this is something I struggle with.
This is to manage your emotions in a healthy way and to adapt to changing circumstances.
I think I'm good at adapting to changes. I'm one of those people. I'm very okay with change. I'm very okay with stepping outside my comfort zone. Something that I've had to learn recently to do in terms of regulating my emotions is I've had to, and like if I'm upset, right, about something, learning to step away. And I talk about this on that episode of Tasteful and Toxic. It's funny that we're talking about this like right after that episode came out, because I talk about this on Tasteful and Toxic and I say, I'm the type of person where I want to handle things right then and there. I'd rather just hash it out. Kind of like what you said, get all those emotions out of the way right away. But in that is when I get reactive and when my emotional intelligence meter goes empty.
Because I'm totally going to contradict myself in a minute anyway, so go ahead.
So something that I've had to do recently, and I've even done this like in my relationship, I was bothered by something and we're kind of talking about it and I can feel myself getting worked up. And something Stephanie, I don't know if you're watching, but Stephanie was on that episode of Tasteful and Toxic. She's a therapist, an amazing therapist. We love her.
I love Stephanie.
I love Stephanie. She's so great. If Stephanie, if you're watching, leave us a little heart in the comments.
Stephanie, you're going to be on the live. the LV Live, right? Isn't Stephanie on that?
Love and Victory show?
The live.
Oh, the live show. Yeah. She'll
I'll
be
see her
there.
then. I'll see
Yes. Something that she said in that episode of Tasteful and Toxic is basically like, you need, she obviously words it better, but she says something about like, you know what level you're at. If you feel yourself getting to like, you know, once you get to like 60, 75 is when you kind of maybe need to take a minute to get yourself back to like a 30. It's okay to have emotions. It's okay to respond emotionally because emotions are valid and we're human and that we experience those things. But she said something, she goes, when I start cutting people off, I know I'm at like a 75. And that, when I tell you,
verbally cutting them off? Like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like cutting them off, like talking over them, not like interrupting.
I do that all the time.
But, you know, and that a light bulb literally went off when she said that to me because I was like, that is how I know I'm getting worked up too. And so, you know, I've learned, like, if I'm irritated by something or if someone's bothered or, you know, maybe I'm upset, I've learned to kind of, and I'm learning. I've only done this a handful of times. I'm not perfect, y'all. I'm in the process. I'm only 25. Cut me slack.
You're learning.
I'm learning.
And you know how many people like, we'll get into that. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. So I got upset about something and I said, let's change the subject because I'm getting worked up.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm getting worked up. We need to change the subject. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Whereas me, maybe like a few months ago would have been like, no, let's hash it out. Let's keep going. And then that.
But are you mentally, are you really able to change it? Or are you still is it still spinning in your head, even though you said
it's still spinning?
But they're not talking about.
But it's not. But then I'm not. It's still spinning, but I'm not unleashing it on somebody.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? And most of the time, if I just take, you know, sometimes an hour, sometimes I just need 30 minutes. If I take that time, I come back, and it doesn't even bother me anymore. Like I'm over it.
I mean, it's great that happens, and I'll kind of not get into detail, but the story in the pregame this morning that we were talking about, and I was talking about how I was speaking to someone and we spoke for like an hour and a half. And it was a subject that was making me angry. This was on the phone, by the way. So it's not face to face, but so there was the face. I'm sure they could have looked at me and known I was mad, but it was over the phone.
Yeah.
And so I just I was quiet, you know, and then that person's like, you know, well, what do you think? And I said, I think that I need to
process. You're full of shit.
Well, yeah, that's what I wanted to say. There was a lot of things I wanted to say.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I'm going to need to process this. So I'll call you tomorrow. Like, let me think about all the things you just said. And now, just to say, I did, and I processed it. And the conversation the next day wasn't good either. It's not like I got over it and I was like, okay, I'm fine. No. But I had a clear, concise, like, here's the 10 things that I want to say about blah, 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 blah.
About what just went down.
About the conversation we had. And it was still emotional, but it wasn't an outlash. It wasn't yelling. I wasn't calling it, you know, or whatever, in whatever context.
Yeah.
I'm talking about my personal life.
Because when you're pushed to a point, you're going to act out of character. And I'm very guilty of that. And relationships mostly. I think relationships is where I get like triggered the most emotionally, more so than in like friendships and stuff like that. But I've realized that I tend to act out of character at that point. Now I'm not even being the person I want to represent myself as. I'm red in the face. I'm screaming. I'm like snarling. I'm like slobbering because I'm so angry about something.
It's hard not to get defensive either. Like you actually talked me off the ledge one day. This was, I don't know, 6 months or so ago. I had a friend, a good friend, an old friend, sort of, you know, via text attack me. And I had clearly hurt her feelings. And instead of telling me that at the time, you know, then waited till she had a list. And some of that list wasn't true. Like it wasn't accurate.
But it was festering in her.
But she never talked about it. Yeah, because she already was upset with me and didn't say it. Then the things that came after it were not even accurate, right? And it was just like out of the blue, like came at me as a surprise because I didn't know that there was any issue, you know?
Yeah.
And Abby was home and I was like, what the, you know, and I'm mad because I want to like instantly go, well, that's not true. Well, that's not true, you know?
Yeah.
And you were like, wait. And I waited. And then I literally just said back, I was like, hey, you're very clearly upset. And then this is coming as a surprise to me. Let's talk about it.
Well, and something that I think you should never say when you're arguing with somebody is that's not true.
Right.
Because
seems like you're invalidating their feelings.
Exactly. And that's, I know for me, the second I feel invalidated, everything you say is nonsense to me. Because I'm like, you're not even making me, you're making me feel like I'm crazy. And the reason I told you to calm down and not react is because I had been in a relationship where the person was constantly, everything I brought up, that's not true, that didn't happen. That's not true, that didn't happen.
Right.
And it's like, okay,
so you're calling me a liar.
So you're saying I'm making shit up, and I know I'm not making shit up. So maybe you see it differently. Maybe because perspectives matter too, right? Like, you know, how many times they say there's a million sides to every story. There's 2 sides, but there's really
3.
There's really 3 sides. But you know, the truth, what the true story is different for each person. Because, you know, if you and I are having a conversation, and, you know, I say like, oh, those jeans are cute, and I kind of look away, you might think I'm being sarcastic. You know what I mean? You might be like, well, you kind of said, and I'm like, no, I actually think they're really cute jeans. You know what I mean? And that's just like a silly example, but like you perceived it as sarcastic because maybe the tone I said or the face that I made. And then, so the truth is I said she had cute jeans, but she perceived it a completely different way. Right. And so by telling someone that's not true or that didn't happen, there's a difference between that and actually lying. It's like, I was gonna say, like, there's also, we just talked about this the other night with my friends, but like body language and patterns and that sort of thing. And when you get to know someone really well, and you're being honest with yourself, right? You know when somebody just like, not every time, obviously, but you can catch like when somebody's body language changes, or they look away, or they do things that they don't normally do. That's valid too. So sometimes you're on point, but just ask. Yeah, just be like, hey, I noticed like a shift in the energy here. Like, is everything okay? Right. I do want to read some comments too, because we got some really, really good comments right now. Oh, sorry, I'm hitting everything right now. Okay, so Shay said, I'm very pliable. However, I intend to stew in my emotion at the time. It takes me a while to navigate through what I want to reactivate and what will come forth once I do. I think she meant react. Yeah. And then Aaron said, yes, that is responsible, Abby. Thank you. You're welcome. Brittany also said, and then the person you are talking with should respect and understand that. Yeah. If you're talking with somebody, and they should respect, if you're setting a boundary saying like, hey, I need a minute. I think for the most part, if you're dealing with somebody who is being honest with you as well, and they're not just looking for an argument, I think when you kind of control it and take it down that level, it will take, you know what I mean? It will bring it down. Yeah. I think part of self-regulation is being able to see things from 2 sides too. I did want to say that. Like it takes, and this just goes with emotional intelligence in general. It takes you being like, stepping out of the situation and stepping out of how you feel and being like, okay, well, how did this person feel about the situation? Which is hard to do and not easy to do when you're at a level 80 or 90 of emotion. That's not easy to do, because all you're concerned about, especially if the person is making you feel invalidated, if they're saying, well, that didn't happen, I don't know why you feel that way, that's not true, I'm trying to tell you overreacting. Calm down and you're overreacting are the 2 quickest comments to, when you tell me to calm down, you are going to get the opposite effect. Like memes about that, like men who say calm down. When has that ever worked? Never. In the history of everything. I'll either get super reactive or I'll be like, I am calm. That's what I say. Yeah. I'm calm. Actually, I just don't like you. I actually did that last night. I do that all the time. I'm calm. My person was like, calm down. And I said, I am calm. This is calm. This is the calmest you're going to get with the way I feel right now. This is calm. Welcome to my crazy. Shay said, something about hitting 50 is really teaching me to pump my brakes first and think through it with more precaution. But I'm also very apt to lay it all out there and get to hashing it out. That's funny she said that, because you also recently turned 50, and I've noticed that you are better at this as well. Yeah. Yeah. Well, people don't got time for any nonsense anymore. Brittany said, you should also not let people gaslight you. Facts. Facts, no printer. Shay said, people's feelings are valid. That fires me up. Don't tell me I'm not entitled to have my own perspective. Exactly. And you may think, but it's important that both sides, right? I'm going to validate your feelings, but your feelings don't make you correct. Right.
So it's, you have to have that conversation.
Yeah. You're right in how you feel.
You feel that way. I'm sorry you feel that way. And I'm sorry if I made you feel that way.
And sometimes you can even talk something out with somebody and get to an understanding. The person will be like, you know what, you're right. Like, I think I understand where you're coming from. And they can still be upset.
Right.
Because the emotions don't just go away because suddenly you know more of the story. Like, the emotions are still there. And I think that's something that I struggle to understand sometimes. I'm like, well, we talked it out and I told you that's not what happened. And they were like, well, yeah, but let me be upset. And I understand that when I'm still upset, like, I'll say, like, I understand, I get it, we're fine, but let me be upset. Let me just get out of this state of mind. Brittany said, right, 3 sides to every story. Side A, side B, and the objective truth. Shay said, preach, Jen. She said, embellishing. I don't know what she's talking about. It was a while ago.
I do. I'm good at that.
Stephanie is joining us this morning. She said the best thing you can do is validate how the person feels. Yeah. Facts. That's from an actual real life therapist, y'all.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Hit her up. Stephanie Burrell. She's amazing. Love her if you need therapy.
But it doesn't even mean you agree. You can validate it without saying I agree with it.
Yeah, you can say, I understand how you feel. Or that's not how I saw the situation. I do think it's also important sometimes to say intention. Some people feel like an apology is you should just say, I'm sorry, and be quiet. I don't apologize that way. I will apologize and say, I'm sorry that I made you feel this way. This was how I meant it to come across. I understand that it didn't come across that way. And going forward, I can make sure I can keep this in mind that, this type of reaction makes you feel this way and I will do better. But I'd like to make it clear, like, I didn't mean to hurt you.
Right.
There are misunderstandings do happen.
That's also self-awareness, right? Or both. I don't know. If someone tells you that, hey, when you do this, it hurts my feelings, and you say, oh my gosh, so sorry, that was definitely not intended. But then you continue to do that thing, now it's intentional.
Yeah, because now
if you don't learn from it and you can't regulate it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, you know what I mean? It's intentional if you continue to do that thing.
Yeah, I was recently working on a project because y'all know I have a million jobs. I do a million things. I was working on something and I submitted it to somebody, and this other person thought that I was like stepping on their toes. They're like, well, you kind of went around me. I like went to their boss and submitted, and I didn't mean to do that. Like, I was like, well, that's not really how I meant it. And I don't want to give details because it involves other people's business, but I was kind of like, oh, well, I didn't like mean to do that. And like, this was my intention with it. I was going to submit it to you also, but like, just to get it out of the way. It was like this whole thing. And then this person was like understood me, but was still upset. And it took me a minute to kind of be okay with that. And to be okay with like, because I really felt like I didn't do anything wrong.
Emotions don't just, even when you get an apology, you don't stop being upset when you receive it.
Right.
Maybe never.
Yeah. Because you can forgive, but you don't forget.
Well, forgiving isn't always for the other person. Sometimes it's for yourself.
Yeah.
So that takes us to empathy. Empathy. Understand other people's emotions and offer comfort and support. You want to go first? I do want to say something really quick. I'm good at like half of that.
Empath is another one of those words, buzzwords.
It is.
And an empath. And it's usually the most like selfish, psychotic people that say that they're an empath.
Well, so what I was going to say is I would have told you I am not, right? And like I'm not good at empathy. I think I'm not good at the second part of that, right?
Repeat it. What the second part was?
Offer comfort and support. So because it makes me uncomfortable. I don't know what to say. As I get older, I realize you don't really have to say something. Sometimes you just have to sit with somebody and listen to them. Right. But strong emotions don't sit well with me. We used to joke that I'm either happy or mad. Like there's nothing else.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to express sadness because I think part of me doesn't want to put that on someone else. I don't want you to know that you made me sad. So I'm getting a little bit better at that. But I think like the thing with empathy is, and I think that you have to get to a place where you can be very empathetic with people, but also not enable and not tolerate.
Yeah.
So that's if hard. You have someone in your life who has, I don't know, an addiction or a mental problem or I don't know, whatever it is, but it's impacting you negatively, you can empathize with them, but also remove yourself from the situation because it's impacting you and your peace. And your,
Yeah. And not to toot my own horn, I think this is something that I am good at. I am like I said with self-regulation, I try to see things from other people's perspective. And if someone hurts me, I can see that they are coming from a place of hurt. You know what I mean? I can see that maybe, they had an experience that is making them act this way. But that doesn't mean I enable.
Yeah. If hurt people, which we like to say that, and that person knows that they're hurting other people, then stop and figure out how to heal your hurt.
Yeah.
Quit hurting other people.
Well,
it's not a good excuse at some point.
And it's funny that you bring that up. I'm going to bring up what I told you. So this show actually helped me heal an old wound with a friend.
No.
Yes.
I know. I love this. I love this story.
Yes. I came on here on one of the episodes. I'm not going to say which one, but I came on here and I told a story about an old friendship. And a story that happened, which the story I told wasn't even the thing that made me
it didn't end the friendship.
It didn't end the friendship. Yeah. That was just a story to tell. But the person reached out to me and she was like, I didn't realize that there was any sort of issue between us. She goes, I just thought
we went our separate ways.
Because she moved. So I was like, and so it was nerve-wracking for me to hear that because I was like, damn, like I need to stop telling my business on the show. But I know I'm actually very glad that it happened because we hashed out something that happened where something happened between me and her, and she was not in a good place emotionally, mentally, just in life. She was, again, I don't want to tell people's business. She was not in a good place. And because of that, things started to affect me because we were very close and everything. And it started to affect me. And even at the time, I understood what was going on. But at the time, I had to remove myself from the situation because it was now impacting my life. And I couldn't, while I can understand, that doesn't mean I had to put up with it. And so when we talked about it, we had a whole FaceTime conversation and we talked about it, and she goes, and she, reiterated to me, I was in a bad place. This was happening. I'm sorry that I hurt you and I'm sorry that it affected you. But I also want you to know that that's not who I am. That's who I was at the time because of my circumstances. And I was like, no, I completely understand that because I've been in a bad place too. And I know that I've wronged people before because I was in a bad place and I would want forgiveness. However, I did also let her know, I understood that and I understand that now, but I don't regret detaching because I needed to do that for my own.
But think about what she just did. Like you told me this story and I was like, what? So you didn't even know she was watching with our whole 7 viewers right now. Or maybe she watched it after. I don't really know. But you haven't spoken to her. You don't keep in contact. Not only did she watch this, but then she recognized herself in the story and reached out to you. And that is that's some self-awareness. That's some healing. She could have been like, oh, that's not me. Or, oh, well, I haven't talked to her anyway.
Right.
I mean, that's an amazing story. I was just like, yeah, good for her. And she didn't come at you like, I can't believe you talked about, she was hurt
reasonably. Oh. She was reasonably hurt because I mean, if I watched something and on a platform and saw that someone was talking about me, I think I would feel some type of way too.
I'm just happy I don't know how many people would recognize themselves in
that situation. Yeah. So yeah, I think in that moment I practiced empathy while still making sure that I set my boundaries. And like I said, at the time I understood where she was coming from, but I was still like, but I have to detach myself from the situation because it's now affecting me in a negative way.
Right.
Yeah. So that's that on empathy. Let's read some comments because we got a lot of comments during that one. Shay said, be intentional and have empathy. Brittany said, right, Jen, right, girl. Frank Sanchez says, a sincere apology will result in that behavior not being repeated. Actions speak volumes, not words. Exactly. You can say whatever you want to say, but if someone keeps doing that, then that's when you have to set boundaries and detach. And where I went wrong in the situation with the story that I just told with my friend is I never told her, hey, this, and this happened, so that's why I'm pulling away. I silently pulled away, which next week we're going to talk about confrontation with Brittany. Brittany herself is going to be joining us.
Oh, I didn't know we got that confirmed. Oh, yeah. Brittany.
Yes, Brittany will be joining us next week for Confront or Comfort. And we're going to be talking about confrontation. But that was something that I definitely struggled with at the time. And we'll go into it more next week. But Yeah. And that's something that I could have done to help in this situation. Again, there's no one aggressor in any situation. So Shay said, I drain myself in this category. I genuinely do. There is being overly empathetic to where you're vulnerable. They say that the saying, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I think that sometimes when someone has too much empathy.
I know. One of my friends who usually watches couldn't make it this morning, but I'm waiting for somebody to call me out and say that, I never cry,
Yeah.
Like we all went to watch The Help back when it was in the movie theater. So it's like a few years ago, a big group of us were like, oh, let's go see The Help.
Mm-hmm.
And, everyone's crying and my friends look over at me and I'm just like, what?
What's up?
They're like, what is wrong with you?
Psychopath.
Yeah. I've read the book. I don't know. I knew it was going to happen.
Brittany said, it is okay to have empathy, but sometimes offering that support can potentially be draining to you. It's all divine purpose. I love this healing story, Abby. It's a good thing.
It was really cool when you told me, well, and you kind of told me like, girl, I got some tea. And I was like, what? And I thought it was going to be gossipy. And she's telling me the story and I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool, So yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Shay said, that's bold. That's true breakthrough. But again, this podcast will bring forth healing. Exactly. I think, it does for you and me, but I think also hopefully our audience can watch this and relate it to themselves and find, not that we're experts in anything.
Nope. Just in life and not an expert, just living it.
Brittany and Tina both said, yay.
That's cool.
And then Shay said she's desensitized. Poor girl. Love her though. Talking about you with the help. Yeah. I think that is true. I think it's easy to desensitize yourself to things. I think that's a defense. I think that's a defense mechanism.
For sure.
Because you don't want to be left vulnerable. So if you don't show your vulnerability, then no one can hurt you. But it really does hurt you, right?
Well, I told you a story earlier too about how I don't cry easily anyway. Usually if I'm crying, I'm really mad.
Yeah.
And that just activates tear triggers. And then I get mad that I'm crying because I'm like, I'm not sad, I'm angry.
I cry a lot. I cry out of frustration. Hardly ever do I cry I don't think I experience a lot of sadness either. When I'm hurt, I cry, but it's not sadness. It really is. And we talked in that first part of it about identifying your emotion. I often feel frustrated and that's when I cry. And that's when I get react in that way.
Well, if you don't cry, and I did not even know this was a real thing. I thought it was a crazy me thing that I didn't share with other people, but I know this is true. And if we've got some Gen Xers out there, maybe, first of all, it's the way we grew up. Our generation was very much like, suck it up, don't cry, whatever, hide your emotions, you're fine.
Tina said,
rub some dirt on it.
Tina said, I'm like your mom. Sometimes I can't cry. Not that I don't care, just don't. Yeah.
But okay, Tina. So there you go. I literally have sometimes felt like I will put on the Notebook to make myself, actually Steel Magnolias does it every time. Because it feels good. There's stuff I have, literal stuff I have to cry about. It's just a movie.
Yeah.
But I'll start crying and then it'll get harder. And then I'm afterwards, I'm exhausted, but I'm I got it out.
I've actually had to question myself.
Is that weird? I don't know.
I've actually had to question myself if I'm a sociopath before.
You are.
I am a sociopath.
No, I'm just kidding.
Because I do not cry at movies. I've never happy cried. Well, that's not true. There's a handful of topics that make me cry.
But have you seen Steel Magnolias?
No. Let me tell you what makes me cry. Anything that has to, which is funny because I don't have children. It's things that have to do with motherhood that make me cry. So there's this one video of this little boy and the bus driver dropped him off on the wrong stop or something. So he goes to his neighbor's doorbell, or his mom wasn't home or something like that. And it's a little boy, he's probably I don't know, 8 years old. And he's in the Ring camera. He's like, my mom's not home. And he starts crying. And every time I watch it, I cry every single time.
It's hard with kids, but mine's the dogs.
Mine's not, hold on. I have another thing that makes me cry. And then I'll let you talk about dogs. Another thing that makes me cry is anytime I'm watching a show and the woman is pregnant and there's a complication, I cry every time. Or when it always has to do with motherhood. That I don't know. Maybe I need to be a mom or something because that's the only thing that gives me any sort of emotion.
Mine are animals.
Animals will make me cry.
I'm on the, what do you call it? The animal TikTok or whatever did you say? I'm going to actually, well, she is because I don't know how to do this. My cousin made a little film about, anyway, I cried at the end. And anyway, you should You should link it. It's on YouTube, I think. We can maybe link it. But it's a little film she did about, a girl's relationship with her dog. And
see, the animal stuff doesn't make me cry. There's this like
bad.
trend on TikTok right now. It's like this certain sound, and then people put it to like their dogs after they put them down, and everyone's crying.
Oh yeah. It sounds awful.
I watch it and not a single tear, not a single emotion. But I love my dogs.
Sociopath.
Maybe I'm a sociopath.
Yeah.
I only cry about
Maybe so. I didn't know that about you.
Not even about actual babies. It's about like, how does the mother feel in that situation? I don't know why. Anyways.
Do you have mommy issues?
Maybe I do. That Slay Preppy girl. Who is this? Do I know you? Slay Preppy girl?
Slay Preppy girl.
Hey girl, she said, bruh. Hi, y'all are so pretty. Thanks, girl.
Oh, well, now we like her.
We're friends now.
You can stay.
Shay said it's her defense mechanism, walls up, talking about you not crying. Because maybe you're the sociopath. I think you're more of a sociopath than me. I just diagnosed you. Stephanie, diagnose her. Tell her she's a sociopath. Anna said,
I think I'm a psychopath.
yes, I do think you're.
I think because sociopaths don't feel bad about things. So.
Neither do psychopaths.
No, they do.
No,
I think they do.
Stephanie,
mean you're a killer.
Stephanie, if you're still tuning in, give us the definition of psychopath and sociopath, because I think my mom's a psychopath. Anna said, I loved the topic. It takes time, therapy, and healing to get to levels of proper consciousness to handle tough conversations or discussions without getting mad or upset. Facts.
I know we're gonna run a little long today.
We are. Hold on, I have more comments.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad.
Relax.
I'm sorry.
Brittany said, I cry over anything, even sad stories in the news. I be crying. I wish I could cry, but yeah. Shay said, shedding emotional tears is healthy, helps to reduce pain. It helps to release oxytocin and endorphins. Release your stress. I'm crying in the shower. Crying in the shower, it washes away. And then Brittany said she also cries over animals all the time.
Oh, and my dad, he has this article from, I don't even know how many years ago, from like Dear Abby, one of these type of things. And it's written from the perspective of a dog passing away and leaving. It is, like, I'm thinking about it right now. And I'm getting to, so my dad hands it to me and he's like, he knows because it made him cry. So he goes, here, read this. And I get seriously like a portion away and I figure out what's going on. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's laughing, right? And he goes, I know, right? So I
guarantee I could read that without experiencing any emotions. Maybe I am a sociopath sometimes about certain things, except for
I'm telling
babies
you,
and moms.
It's bad. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna read it on one of our shows. Yeah.
So this one is social skills. That's the last
social
four
skills
pillars of emotional intelligence.
Of the 4 social skills, build and maintain relationships and effective communication, which I was not right then. But
yeah.
Okay, so build and maintain relationships and effective communication.
Yeah, I think we talked about already, so we can probably skip over because I know we're running out of time, the effective communication part. I feel like we already kind of talked about that with making sure that you're advocating for yourself and stuff like that. But building and maintaining relationships, I think...
That doesn't mean romantic ones. But...
No, I think it's easy. And again, this is a defense mechanism. It's easy to shut yourself out. And then you don't experience hurt if you don't experience people, right? So if you completely avoid certain relationships, then...
I feel attacked.
No, I'm actually talking about myself. Because, we talked on that one show about friendships. And, sometimes things happen and it made me kind of put my guard up in friendships. And I was like, well, if I just don't let anyone get really close to me, and I'm still like that. When I'm friends with someone, it takes a long time, years for me to let you really, really close to me. Because I don't like people who attach. I hate that. And so, which is fine romantically, but for whatever reason, friendships, it's a problem. And so, but I've now in the past probably year or so, especially since joining, a organization where I can meet people and be friends, and I've learned to kind of let that guard down a little bit. I still have my guard up because you don't know what their intentions are, right? But I've learned that those types of relationships are important.
Right. So when it talks about building, right, and building and maintaining, there's always that, and it can come from friendships or relationships, right? There's always that initial attraction, whatever that may be. A shared hobby,
right?
Oh, hey, we have this in common. Right?
It can be as simple as I like her outfit. I like the way she dresses. I'm going to be her friend.
Or if it, a physical attraction, or I don't know, a shared interest, any sort of thing. And then you have to is that going to last the test of time? right? Is that thing going to last? No, probably not.
Right.
Right. Even if it's an initial attraction, if someone's attractive, once you kind of get used to it, that's kind of, okay. You're still attractive, but I hope there's other things that are keeping me in this relationship. So emotional intelligence, right? You have to like really sit with yourself. Like, okay, are we freely give and taking of this friendship and or relationship?
Yeah.
Or am I just taking or am I just giving? Because either way, even if you're the one that's just taking, that's going to get boring.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think if you want to have a good relationship, either way, you want to give too.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
But if I'm giving and not getting anything in return, I have to look at that. And I'm not talking about material things. I'm talking about
time,
shared interest, time,
energy.
But energy, respect, fun, all those things. So if you're constantly just, having a different friend group because that initial attraction, that initial spark,
the honeymoon phase is gone now.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh, well, I don't.
Which I think was my problem too. I'm like, oh, I really like this person right now. And then and then I get to know them. And there have been times in friendships, not even just in relationships, in friendships where I'm like, and I meet this person. I'm like, wow, they're so great. I want to be their best friend. And I go all in. And then a few months later, I'm like, oh, you get on my nerves.
But you said that on the friend episode. Yeah. You said, I initially like, oh, this person's going to be my best friend. They're great. And not to say that they're even bad in the end. Right. They're just not, you're not vibing.
I'm not vibing as much as I thought I was in that honeymoon phase. Yeah.
And again, I feel like that self-awareness and self-reflection, just because it's not necessarily the other person's fault.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, like, if I meet somebody who's like a astrophysicist, I don't actually know what they do, but if they want to talk science and math all the time, I'm like, I'm not mathing.
Yeah, the mathing girl.
Or I don't want to talk. Or I don't say I don't want to talk, but like my one of my sisters, I don't think she's watching, but she, we don't talk that much because she's super into things that I know nothing about and don't really interest me. And they really like that's she's
very into
because they're like Comic-Con and that kind of things. I'm just for reference.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It doesn't interest me. I know it's very, very popular and a lot of people are into that.
Mm-hmm.
I am not. Right. So we're sisters and we love each other, but we don't really talk.
There's not a lot of common
ground. There's a big age gap too. We're 14 years apart. So
yeah.
We're in different places, but I'm just saying like, again, you can still care about the other person, but maybe just be like, well, this isn't going to be the person I hang out with all the time.
I don't think time spent with somebody necessarily determines how close you are.
No, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? I don't think you need to like, I have my super best friend, literally have her name tattooed on me. I've talked about it before. Hey, Amal, if you're watching, hey girl, I sent you the link. So if you're not watching, I'm mad. Anyways, we don't talk every single day. I try to see her at least every couple weeks, because we both have a lot going on. You know what I'm saying? But I don't necessarily think you need like to build and maintain a relationship that you need to spend a lot of time with somebody.
You're maintaining it.
Yeah, you're maintaining it in other ways.
You maintain your yard. You don't mow your yard every day.
Right. I want to read these last two comments, and we're probably going to have to skip Am I the Asshole today because we're running out of time.
It was an Easter one.
Sorry. Okay. I made the executive call. Brittany said, it's always the opposite for me. I'm not sure about people at first, and then I open up.
Oh, Brittany wants to be my sister.
And she wants to meet your sister.
And they're 14 years apart. Her and her sister. Sorry, I'm reading ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
She said her and her sister are 14 years apart. Shay said, I'm skeptical at first. Does take me a bit to buy into what they're genuinely about, but I do give the benefit of, I'm sure she means benefit of the doubt. Yeah. Yeah. So today's episode was really good. We talked about, okay, drama queen, quit being so damn dramatic. Practice some emotional intelligence.
I feel like we actually were a little more on task this episode.
Because you had prep.
Because I prepped.
Yeah. You had.
Look at that.
You had an agenda for us.
Look at that actually prepping.
Yeah.
We're funnier when we're not on time.
I agree.
Well, you can't win them all.
But today's episode was really good. I think
informative.
Yeah. And I may not be an expert, but I have been in therapy for a year. So if that gives me any sort of credibility, I think.
Can I just say something random though? Just because I said it to my friend yesterday and she goes, that's so good. And she goes, did you make that up? And I'm like, I think so, but also could have read it. So just saying, I may have made this up. We were just talking about like boastfulness and egotistical people and whatnot. And she was talking about somebody who she's like, oh, she's always one-upping me. She's always this. She's always that.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, and I said, well, they're proud of themselves. She's like, no. There's confidence. And then there's just like big ego braggers. And I was like, so I said, I go, well, you know what? And here I am trying to like be empathetic. And I said, I really think that people who do that, who, have to one up you, have to brag about themselves and, have to overtalk you and say, oh, well, I did this and I did this and I did this. I think those are insecure people that want to be confident.
They're overcompensating.
And so it's not coming from a truly well place where they're confident.
Yeah.
But they want to be confident, right? So they're going to tell you how good they are, because people who are confident don't have to say it.
Right.
Like they just kind of,
and
I don't need to validate myself, right? Where someone who's insecure needs that validation back. Like, listen, here's all the great things I did. Please validate me back.
Right.
So I
think there's a way to talk about your accomplishments and talk about your achievements.
And you should, and especially in some situations, you should, like in your job, you say, hey, I've done these things,
Yeah.
But I think that when you're in that situation, like you could acknowledge that and have empathy for that person. Like, oh, they don't really feel great about themselves, so they need that.
Yeah.
Again, though,
it's still irritating.
If it annoys you, you don't have to subject yourself to it.
Well,
you don't have to like try to like, hey, settle down, like quit bragging, like you're
right. You don't want to like be the person to put them in their place.
Yeah, just let them do it.
But yeah. Well, also, how many times have you heard a guy say, "But like, I'm a nice guy"? Are you?
Well, if you're a nice guy, you don't have to tell me that.
I will see that. I will feel it. Yeah. What
if they said, "I'm a complete jerk and I will cheat on you and leave you"? You probably wouldn't believe that either.
Yeah.
You're like, that's cute.
Oh, you're so funny.
Like, yeah.
When people tell you about themselves, believe them.
Except the nice guy one.
Yeah.
See, there's not a rule. There's no rule.
There's no rule.
Use your intuition. Pay attention to the signs and the body language.
Frank said, "Great job, ladies. I enjoyed your show and the genuineness shared. I look forward to supporting your show weekly." Thank you, Frank.
Oh, we got the other side.
Welcome to the fam. We have a male viewer now.
Hanging out with all the ladies, Frank.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is Journeys and Ambitions with
Jennifer
and Abby on LV with Val Radio. Again, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I think when I looked, we had like 60-something subscribers. So
shut up. Let's get to 100.
Let's get to 100.
We're in double-digit episodes. Let's get to triple-digit subscribers.
There you go.
Help us out.
There you go. Share it with your friends, with your family. Share it on your Facebook. I know I send the link out to a bunch of people. If you enjoy the show, send the link out to anyone else you think might enjoy our show.
Next Friday is Comfort, or what is it?
Confront or Comfort with Brittany Edwards. She'll be joining us. We are going to try to get more like guests in on the show. Not necessarily every week, because I think we overpower, but sometimes.
I don't know what you're talking
about. Follow us on all platforms at Journeys Ambitions. So just Journeys Ambitions, except for Twitter. We are J_A_radio. Make sure to give us a follow. Again, you're listening on LV with Val Radio. Be sure to download the LV with Val app or visit lvwithval.com for 24-hour music. There's other talk shows. I know you all saw her in the comments, Self-Love, or it's called Empower Hour with Coach Anna. We have a show called Tasteful and Toxic. We have a show, The Love and Victory Show with Val, on Saturday mornings, except this Saturday, don't tune in because there's not going to be one. There's VK Career Conversation. We have tons of shows for you guys to watch, but especially Journeys and Ambitions.
Journeys and Ambitions.
Obviously, duh. All right. Goodbye.